The Marlins are hitting the road on Friday to take on the 0-7 Atlanta Braves. Is that possible? We're going to preview the series with a Braves expert on today's show.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. You can hit me up on X at Jeremiah Geiger 2. And thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment down in the comment section. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. And on today's show, Alex Greenberg is in the house. We're going to preview the Atlanta Braves series during the first segment, and then I'm going to get into the mailbag, answer some questions, the middle infield depth, Otto Lopez, Xavier Edwards, and of course, we have some Sandy Alcantara questions. Could he stick around? Could the Marlins decide to keep him? That's all coming up in today's show. But first off, Alex, it's always great to talk some baseball with you. Welcome in, and how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Well, doing great, other than the Braves not winning a game yet. But thanks for having me on, dude. I love coming on the show, so I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And for all those Marlins fans out there listening or watching, Alex is a huge Braves fan, knows the team inside and out. And it was a really good opportunity to bring him in to preview the Marlins and Braves first series in Atlanta. And I got to tell you guys, I'm shocked right now. 0-7 for the Atlanta Braves, the Marlins sitting at 4-3. Is the feeling in Atlanta, is it worrisome right now? Like, how worried are they?
It's not good, dude. Somebody unplugged our light bright. We it's like everybody on the whole team. It's everyone's pressing. And this week has been, I mean, not just losing those games, but it's been horrendous with this Profar thing. And then the same day, we lose Ronaldo Lopez on the IL for probably a considerable amount of time. They're going to scope his shoulder just to see what's going on in there. When you hear stuff like that, that's not good. When you hear shoulder, that's not good. But this Profar,
no, not at all. Man,
it was awful. And what I found out is he tested positive in the offseason after we signed him, from what I understand, and then we appealed it. So our GM knew. That's why. So remember, we signed Alex Verdugo right before the season.
Right.
It didn't make any sense at the time.
But that was why.
That was why we knew.
Wow.
We knew it, and we tried to appeal it, and then obviously the appeal didn't go through, and then it was just a bombshell right after the San Diego series. It was just horrible.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a rough go.
I mean, now we're looking at the first week of the season, still don't have a win. You get a Marlins team that feels pretty confident. They had a good first homestand, 4-3. It's their first road trip. I know the Marlins are playing with confidence right now that they feel like they can compete, and they're playing a Braves team which is desperate at this point. How do you see this series going? What's the storyline surrounding this first series with these two teams?
You know what? To sidetrack a little bit, I saw an interview with Kevin Seitzer. So we fired our hitting coach after last season, and he said the biggest problem with these guys is between the ears. Because if you look around, our whole team our offense is extremely talented.
Oh, yeah.
If they could just stop pressing the way that they are, I think we could just get something going. But, right now, no one's been 0-7 and made the playoffs in the history of baseball. It's a hole. And, the Marlins are just, say what you want about the Marlins, like whatever major league talent they have compared to minor league talent, they're a scrappy team. I mean, they want to win, and it just doesn't matter to them. I think, it should be a hard series for the Braves, but what's indicative of how things are going, look at yesterday. We played the Dodgers. It's the sixth inning. We're up 5-3. And the bases are loaded, no outs, and our three best hitters are up, and we score 0 runs.
It's inexcusable. Can't happen.
It's just totally between the ears right now, and these guys are just like pressing. And obviously, as you keep losing, it keeps getting worse and worse because the expectations for the Braves, are one of the better teams in baseball. So it's just spiraling. It's not the best place to be, for sure.
I'm looking at the pitching matchups, Alex, for this series. Max Meyer goes to tomorrow on Friday, the Friday night game. He's going to be making his second start, and he arguably has had the best start so far. He went 6 innings and against the Pirates, struck out 7, which tied a career high. And he's facing Spencer Schwellenbach, who's a really good young pitcher. Tell the audience a little bit about Spencer Schwellenbach, and then moving on in the series, the Marlins have to face AJ Smith-Shawver and Grant Holmes.
Yeah, so I mean, Schwellenbach, this guy, you want to talk about between the ears? He's got it. He has big time rave from everybody that's coached him, people that catch him. Snitker. This guy, he really does have it. And the good news is, like, sometimes these guys have these seasons like Ronaldo Lopez last year where it looked awesome, but then you look at the peripherals and they're not as good. Well, Schwellenbach's were even better than what his actual numbers were, which is awesome. And he actually added a couple ticks on his velocity, over the winter. He doesn't walk a lot of guys. I think he's a great pitcher. I think he's going to be, it won't be before long before he's really considered like an ace in baseball. I'm very high on Schwellenbach. As far as AJ Smith-Shawver, he's young. He throws hard. His command is not the best. And he wouldn't have gotten a spot if not for us, Ian Anderson just didn't show up. So we traded him. The guy's got upside. He's still young, but he's got to show it. And then you look at Grant Holmes. This is a guy that was a first-round pick by the Dodgers almost 10 years ago, spent 9 years in the minor leagues, 9 years as a first-round pick. And,
wow.
Finally we brought him up as a reliever, and then we stretched him out and gave him some starts. And, the guy throws like 96. He doesn't walk guys, but, watching that Dodgers game the other day, I mean, his line wasn't terrible, but, man, he leaves some stuff over the plate. Like, he really does. He leaves that, like, hanging – curveball, breaking ball, like over the plate. He just doesn't have for a guy that doesn't walk guys, he also kind of leaves some hangers. So, he's nothing like special, but he's had some good he's had some good outings where he strikes out a lot of guys for sure. So we just got to get this thing going, man.
Yeah. I mean, this series is a super important one, I think, for both teams, because the Marlins, especially after the first weekend, I mean, the whole Marlin fan base was ecstatic. I mean, no one expected us to take 3 out of 4 and the fashion in which we did so. You play the Mets tough. It was a really tough series. Marlin fans will tell you that we should have had that last game. The Marlins pretty much gave that series away right at the end. The bullpen kind of fell apart, but they just ran out of gas. So now you're facing this Braves team that on paper I think is the most talented in the division and should win the division. They're still without a win. And I think it's going to be a good series. We're going to get our series predictions here in a few minutes. But I do think the Marlins are scrappy, and they put themselves in a position to, like those younger starters you mentioned, Smith-Shawver, Schwellenbach, these guys, if they make mistakes, the Marlins are going to try to capitalize on them. The power bat, the power output for the Marlins has really come down to relying on Griffin Conine, Kyle Stowers, and Eric Wagaman. It just hasn't been there. None of these guys have really hit for power consistently so far. I think Otto Lopez has 2 home runs, which, if you look at it, he's not a power hitter. So the Marlins are going to have to rely on contact and take the free base. If Braves pitchers are willing to give them a free pass and walk a couple guys, then the Marlins are going to have to play that and play small ball, and they're going to have to rely on their bullpen, because what I've seen is the Marlins starters are going to go 5 innings, maybe 6, but that third time through the order, the model, the analytics tells them, all right, take them out, put in the bullpen. So the Braves are going to have to really get to the starters early and jump out to a huge advantage. Otherwise, it's going to be a bullpen game, and we've seen the Braves bullpen start to falter early this season.
You know what's interesting? Going into the series, I was thinking like totally different mindsets. Like the Marlins have had a fun week. I mean, they've been interesting to watch, right? And it's a group of young guys that just don't know any better, and just there's really not a ton of pressure. They just want to go out there and be scrappy and play. Right. Whereas you're playing a team that the pressure's mounting more and more and more, and the expectation was so big, and it's just like pressure, you know what I mean? So it's just totally different where they're at in their heads, and in that respect, it should be an interesting series.
I think it's going to be a good series. I could see the Braves getting on track, and I could see the Marlins also sneakily getting a win or two in this series. I'm going to give you my 2 keys to the game, and then I'm going to get your 2 keys to the series rather, and then give our series predictions. For me right now, the key for the Marlins is the bullpen has to be on point. You can't have another 3-run home run in the 8th given up by Calvin Fauché, because the Braves can absolutely do that. Peter Alonso killed us this series. The Braves have a ton of hitters who can do the same thing. So the bullpen has to lock them down in the later innings if you have a lead. And then offensively, I want to see the Marlins get timely hits. Too often you left runners on the bases in that last game against the Mets. Who's going to come through when a runner's in scoring position and knock him in? Or there's a runner on third, elevate the ball and get a sac fly. I think if the Marlins do that, they'll be in a position where they win at least 1 and maybe 2 in this series. What's your keys to this series, and what's your prediction?
Well, mine's going to be all offense, because that's where our problem has been. So what I'll say is the number 1, easily, it needs to be scoring with runners on base. We have to get guys in, especially you get guys on in scoring position in less than 2 outs. You have to get them in. I think that's the biggest thing. We've struggled with that. We're pressing. And the second one would be, we need to have a lot smarter at bats. Watching that Padres and Dodgers series, I know we went against some good pitchers, whatever. We just gave away at bat after a bat after a bat. I mean, 0-2 right off the bat. And not just guys like Ozzie either. I'm talking Olsen, Riley LaGlace, like these guys with track records. And if you look at the back of the baseball card, just really big track records of like success, just not getting going. And then it's funny, you look at a guy like Ozuna. Ozuna has a 45% walk rate right now, which is the most – it's like Barry Bonds level. The interesting part about that is he's not hitting. But what that's telling me is that there's no protection around him. They're not afraid of anybody in the Braves lineup right now except Ozuna. They're just not giving this guy stuff to hit. And he's got a great eye, but they're not giving him anything to hit. So I don't think there's any fear in, what our big dogs are capable of doing. And, we just need to have smarter at bats and get guys in when we have less than 2 outs with runners on.
Awesome. Alex, it's always a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for coming on the show and previewing the series.
Yeah, dude, seriously, anytime. Thank you so much, man. I love the show, and honestly, love watching. I know I'm a Braves fan, but I love watching the Marlins, and I'm excited about where they're headed. I really am.
Awesome. And yeah, it's going to be a fun series to watch, and we'll text back and forth, of course, and you'll be back on the show. It's going to be a fun season. And that was Alex Greenberg checking out here on Locked On Marlins. And on the rest of this show, coming up next, I'm talking about the middle infield. I'm going to talk about the mailbag questions, answer those questions. I have some Sandy Alcantara questions. Going to get to all of them, guys. Thank you for submitting these comments and questions. You can always do that on Twitter, on YouTube. But in the next segment in particular, I have a really interesting question regarding Xavier Edwards, regarding Otto Lopez, and regarding Max Acosta. The middle infield depth for the Marlins is loaded. That's coming up right after this. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. Do you need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade professionals looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. When it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they are free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients has also partnered with two-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF-certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. I've used Just Ingredients after a workout. I think it has wholesome, nourishing ingredients. It doesn't have the artificial junk. And the most important thing to me, besides the health benefits, it tastes really good. I have the chocolate flavor. They sent me some. It is one of the best protein powders I can remember taking. So it's really good after a workout. You're at the gym, or maybe you're at the pool or running. Just mix it with some milk, and it tastes really good. So visit justingredients.us and use code LOCKEDONMLB if you want to try some for 20% off. And for more wellness tips, follow at just.ingredients on Instagram. It's time to open up the mailbag. There we go. The show is back. The mailbag is here. I have a really interesting question from Stronghold Lament on YouTube. He asks, should we keep Xavier Edwards at shortstop? Where else could he play? Considering we have Acosta and possibly trading Sandy for an elite shortstop prospect, such as Marcelo Meyer. So Xavier Edwards at shortstop. The issue with Xavier Edwards is not his bat. His bat keeps him in the lineup. His ability to steal bases, get on the base paths, and cause havoc, that's going to keep him as an everyday player. The defense has been the question because he doesn't have a lot of range at shortstop. And Max Acosta in spring training, who is now in AAA, showed why he can be an above-average defender at the position. I think he's major league ready right now with his glove. The Marlins also have Starlin Caba waiting in the wings down in low A. He's developing, and his glove is really good. So Xavier Edwards, I don't think is the long-term shortstop for the Marlins, but in the current scheme of things, that's where he's going to play because you have to keep his bat in the lineup. The ideal situation would be he plays second base. That's his profile, second baseman. But Otto Lopez is a Gold Glove candidate there. I don't see a scenario in which this season Xavier Edwards just moves off of shortstop, even if Max Acosta gets called up, because Acosta's arm is a lot stronger than Xavier Edwards is. If he gets called up, he could play third base. You could move Otto to third. You could put X at second possibly, and then put Acosta at shortstop if he's ready. But I do think that all would happen much later in the season, post deadline. It's a hard one to answer because I don't see a scenario in which the Marlins are losing. They're in a losing situation. If Max Acosta puts himself in a position to debut, that's a good problem to have. It's just about orchestrating the lineup, orchestrating the defense that best suits everybody and their skill set. The second part, could Sandy be traded for an elite shortstop prospect like Marcelo Meyer? Man, I love Marcelo Meyer. I don't know if the Red Sox would do that. He's so close to being major league ready. It would be tough. I think you have to take that trade if it's offered to you because I'm that high on Meyer. Great defender, really good bat to ball skills. But with the middle infield depth, I know Marcelo Meyer is super talented, and you should probably take that trade. I think the Marlins are going to be looking for more of an outfield. They need a star outfield prospect more than the middle infield depth, which they already have a lot of. Second question, Brian Gonzalez on YouTube. This is about ownership. He says, with Bruce Sherman being the Marlins owner, if Jorge Mas became the owner instead, how do you think the Marlins would have looked like under his ownership with the team and how they would improve revenue sharing and attendance? So this is going way back to 2017. If Jorge Mas had the team or had bought the team rather than Bruce Sherman, I do think he would have reinvested more money and the Marlins payroll would certainly be higher than it is right now. Bruce Sherman does not want to spend. He will not spend this year. He's not going to spend heavy next year or the next. That's just not what he can afford. He's one of the owners in baseball that just should not be an owner in the professional setting right now. And it's unfortunate because you want this team to succeed, and success often takes spending money. And Bruce has proven that he's not willing to do that. And I don't think he's ever going to be willing to do that, which is why he's brought in Peter Bendix in order to create a system that tries to generate as much talent as possible. They've already traded guys with multiple years of control. The payroll is the lowest in all of baseball. So yes, Jorge Mas would be a better alternative than Bruce Sherman. I think most potential owners would be a better alternative than Bruce Sherman. It is what it is, though. You have to make do with what you have. You have to play the cards with which you're dealt. And unfortunately, Bruce Sherman is the Marlins owner for the foreseeable future. I don't see that changing anytime soon. I don't see him selling the team. But it is a great what if. If Jorge Mas had bought the team, maybe the Marlins made a couple playoffs. Maybe they keep that core intact and don't immediately trade everyone and they keep the Stanton contract. I have no doubt that it would have been a lot different. Coming up next, finishing up the mailbag questions. These last two questions I have, well, three questions. Two of them surround Sandy Alcantara, but not Sandy necessarily getting traded as a foregone conclusion. What if Sandy Alcantara stays a Marlin? That's going to come up right after this. And this episode is brought to you by Gametime. There's nothing better than catching an MLB game live. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, the smell of ballpark food. And if you're looking to go last minute, Gametime makes getting tickets easier than ever. With last minute deals, all-in pricing, and a lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, ticket prices drop as Gametime gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. So Gametime is the official ticketing partner of Locked On. And as the season is here, games are coming up. I'm going to plan to go on a couple games, as many as I can. If I'm available to. I love going to baseball games, and I plan to use Gametime. I've used it. I've grabbed those last minute tickets, and the prices are unbeatable. What I like most about Gametime is the picks feature. It makes finding the best deals effortless. It filters out all the other stuff, and it only highlights the top discounts in the stadium. And the price is all inclusive. You're going to see if it's a $50 ticket, it's a $50 ticket. There's no extra fees or any of that that you'll find on other platforms maybe. And you will be able to preview your exact seat before you purchase. So there's no bad surprises when you get to the stadium. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. If you're an everyday listener, once again, I do appreciate it. If this is your first time checking out Locked On Marlins, I hope you return. Hit subscribe so you don't miss any episodes in the future as the season continues to roll along. It's going to be a fun year. And as a reminder, hit me up with any comments or questions so you can be recognized on the show. Just like Just My Fandom over on X. He says, what are the odds that the Marlins can't find a good enough package and Sandy is offered a second extension? So the first part of that question to Just My Fandom, again, thank you for the question. That's a possibility. The Marlins could go through the entire season and not trade Sandy Alcantara because they don't want to settle for what they think he's worth. He is their biggest trade chip. You cannot mess this up. There is no scenario that you trade him for pennies on the dollar and you settle for a questionable return. If you trade him, the consensus around all prospect websites, around the media, around the fans should be, wow, I'm sad Sandy Alcantara is gone. I'm always going to love him, but this return was too good to pass up. That is the only way you trade Sandy this season before the trade deadline. If they don't, will they offer him an extension? No, they will not, because he's already signed one extension. The Marlins are not going to spend the money. Bruce Sherman is not going to spend the money required to sign Sandy to another extension. He has 2 more years on his contract. He has a club option in the third year in 2028. So theoretically, he could be a Marlin for 3 more years. But I still think they trade him before that. It just doesn't have to be this year. But we saw with Jesus Luzardo, they were willing to trade him when he had 4 years left of control and had been coming off of an injury. So Sandy Alcantara will be traded. It might happen this year. I still think it does. But no, they're not going to sign him to an extension. It's just not how this team is going to operate. In fact, they haven't signed any player to an extension since Richard Blyer in 2022, I believe. It was really small money. So Sandy Alcantara did sign that team-friendly extension. The next contract, free agent contract, assuming he continues to pitch at a level that he can and has done before, that Cy Young caliber starter, is going to be way above the Marlins pay grade. Ant over on X says, does Bendix have the stones to trade Sandy if we keep winning? Okay, so in a wild scenario in which the Marlins are competitive at the deadline and they're 10 games over 500, which would be crazy, there's no way they trade Sandy Alcantara. If they are like the Washington Nationals last year, where they're hovering around wild card contention, but they're still 2-3 games under 500, maybe they'll trade him, or they will entertain the possibility of trading him rather. So again, it depends on the offer. The only way the Marlins don't consider trading him and Peter Bendix picks up the phone and says, guys, he's off the table for this season, is if they somehow are just like 2023, the magic is here, they're competing, and they're in a position, a clear competitive position, not just on the skirts of wild card contention, but firmly entrenched in a wild card position or a division lead if something crazy like that happens. Other than that, he's absolutely going to be on the trade block, in my opinion. James Roberto, he says, well, we both might have been wrong about Kyle Stowers. How do you feel about this start to the season? I'm getting 2023 vibes. I think Kyle Stowers is having one heck of a year so far. The first week, and even in spring training, you saw he struggled, but he was drawing walks. And this season, he's drawing a ton of walks, which is huge, showing he's not going to chase at uncompetitive pitches. He's going to draw out and at that. And he has the bat speed to make pitchers pay. We saw 421-foot home run against the Mets. He has that power, and he's getting opportunities to play. He's going to be in that situation where he'll platoon. He's going to get a day off. He'll get back in the lineup if there's a righty. Sometimes he'll start against a lefty or get at bats against a lefty. But right now, I got to say, I'm excited for Kyle Stowers. I think he's been one of the most impressive pieces of this young Marlins team to start the season. Is this team giving me 2023 vibes? Yes and no, because I'm so excited. And if they go out and they take 2 out of 3 or somehow sweep the Braves, okay, now I'm going to be really excited for this team. And yeah, why not? Why couldn't they do something magical? I'm always a proponent of belief. You got to believe. You got to have hope and faith in this team. And it comes with wins. You got to see the evidence. Because if this team was, 2-5, I'd probably be saying the opposite. But hey, if they keep winning, why not? Right now, 4-3, they're winning, and I'm happy. So let's continue that. I hope you guys just enjoy Marlins baseball, enjoy watching the development of these players, because this first week's been a blast. Like I was talking with Alex, I did not expect the Braves to be in the situation they are right now. I didn't expect the Marlins to be in the situation that they are with the 4 wins, and they should have had that 5th one. Otto Lopez almost walked it off. But it's exciting. I love this team so much. That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Marlins. Until next time, guys, stay safe, stay locked on, and let's go fish.